It began with four words that struck with the force of a wrecking ball, demolishing the 6-year structure of our marriage in a single, brutal second. "Don't touch me, Asher." The words were spoken with such icy contempt that the temperature in our sunlit living room seemed to plummet. My hand, which had been moving in a gesture of casual affection toward my wife's shoulder, froze midair. It was a shoulder I had touched 1,000 times in comfort after a long day, in the quiet passion of the night, in the simple, thoughtless intimacy of passing in the hallway. Now, it was forbidden territory. I didn't yell. I didn't demand an explanation. A strange, cold clarity washed over me. I simply retracted my hand, nodded once, and turned away. I walked out of the room without a word, the silence I left behind screaming louder than any argument ever could. That silence, I would soon realize, was the first blueprint of my new life. The guest bedroom felt like a foreign country that night. We had bought this house together 3 years ago, a stepping stone to the grand design of our future, the dream home we were meticulously planning. I had never once slept in this room. The mattress was too firm, the pillows too soft, and the sheets carried the faint, musty scent of neglect. I lay awake for hours, my eyes tracing the lazy spin of the ceiling fan, replaying the scene. It wasn't the words themselves, but the look in Lorelei's eyes that haunted me. It wasn't anger or annoyance. It was revulsion. My wife, the woman I had built my entire world around, was revolted by my touch. The only question was why. In retrospect, the signs had been there for months. Subtle cracks in the facade I had been too busy, too trusting to notice. The late nights she claimed were spent with girlfriends, leaving her exhausted and distant. The new expensive cologne that wasn't mine, a scent that clung to her clothes like a guilty secret. The way her phone, once left carelessly on the kitchen counter, would now mysteriously flip face down the moment I entered a room. They were classic signs, the kind of architectural flaws in a relationship that even a novice could spot. But love, I had learned, makes you willfully blind. It makes you want to believe in the structural integrity of a building, even when you can feel the floor trembling beneath your feet. That dream house was my life's work. It wasn't just a building. It was to be the physical manifestation of our future. 3 bedrooms for the children we planned to have. A wraparound porch where we would drink coffee and grow old together. A maple tree in the backyard that would one day hold a tire swing. For years, I had worked 60-hour weeks at the architecture firm, pouring every extra ounce of my energy, every bonus, every sacrifice into the joint account labeled Future Home. Lorelei had contributed too, of course, from her job at the high-end boutique, but the lion's share, the foundation of that dream, was built with my sweat and my sleepless nights. The next morning, the pretense was suffocating. I stood in our kitchen, watching her as she pretended nothing had happened. She sipped her coffee, scrolled through her phone, a perfect portrait of marital normalcy. "I was thinking marble for the countertops in the new place," she said, her eyes fixed on the screen. "Dalton says it adds at least 15% to the resale value." Dalton, our contractor. The name hung in the air between us, heavy and toxic. He was charming, handsome in a rugged way, and had been spending an increasing amount of time with Lorelei, discussing plans. I had dismissed it as professional diligence. What a fool I'd been. "Sounds expensive," I replied, my voice a carefully controlled monotone. She finally looked up, a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. "It's our dream home, Asher. Don't you think it's worth it?" Our dream home. The irony was a physical weight on my chest. "Of course," I said, forcing a smile that felt like cracking plaster. "Whatever you think is best." A wave of relief washed over her face, so palpable it was almost visible. And in that instant, I knew. My suspicions, my fears, they all crystallized into a terrible, unshakable certainty. Her relief wasn't about marble countertops. It was about me. It was relief that I wasn't asking questions. Relief that I was still playing my part. Predictable, reliable Asher, the workhorse who would keep funding the dream, oblivious to the nightmare unfolding within its walls. I decided then and there that I would not confront her. A confrontation would give her the stage for a performance of lies, of gaslighting, of twisting my own perceptions, until I doubted what I knew in my gut to be true. I would not give her that satisfaction. I would wait, I would watch, and I would plan. I was an architect after all, and I was about to design my own demolition. For the next 2 weeks, I became a detective in the ruins of my own marriage. I maintained the facade of our daily routine, a hollowed-out structure held up by the sheer force of my will. I left for work at the usual time, but instead of driving to the office, I would park my car a block away, circle back on foot, and slip into the house through the back door, a silent ghost in the home I had paid for. The first day yielded nothing but the low hum of the refrigerator and the maddening tick of the grandfather clock in the hall. The second day, however, I heard it. A sound I hadn't heard directed at me in months. Lorelei's genuine, unrestrained laughter coming from our bedroom. I crept down the hallway, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. "I know, I can't wait either," she was saying, her voice low and intimate, laced with a conspiratorial excitement. "He has no idea. He's too busy with his blueprints and budget spreadsheets to notice anything." The words were a physical blow. I froze, pressing myself against the wall, the cool plaster a stark contrast to the fire raging inside me. She saw my dedication, my sacrifice, not as an act of love, but as a convenient distraction. "God, Dalton, the things you say," she continued, giggling like a teenager. "Yes, tomorrow. He's got that client dinner. I'll come to your place. I'll bring the updated house plans." I slipped out as quietly as I had come in, my mind racing. The blueprints for our dream home, my designs, were now being used as a prop in their affair. It was Dalton. The contractor we had hired to build our future was sleeping with my wife and, from the sound of it, helping her plot against me. The world sharpened into a painful, high-definition clarity. I started noticing everything I had been too trusting to see before. The way she would leave the room to take calls, her voice dropping to a whisper. How she'd come home smelling of an unfamiliar, musky aftershave. The frequency with which Dalton's name now peppered her conversation. "Dalton thinks we should consider expanding the master bathroom. Dalton found this amazing tile for the backsplash. Dalton suggested we could add a hot tub on the deck. Dalton, Dalton, Dalton." The man was a ghost architect in our lives, redesigning my future behind my back. The opportunity for definitive proof came a few nights later. Lorelei left her laptop open on the living room couch while she went to take a long, leisurely shower. I was pretending to read, but my senses were on high alert. The familiar chime of an incoming message cut through the quiet. I hesitated for only a second. Morality felt like a luxury I could no longer afford. The message preview on the screen made my blood run cold. It was from Dalton. From Dalton Price. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Your husband's still clueless?" My hands trembled as I clicked on the message thread. The screen illuminated a history of deceit so profound it felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. 6 years of trust, of shared history, of love, all came crashing down in a cascade of cold, blue text. Their exchanges were not just sexual, they were calculating. They discussed how to manipulate me into adding more expensive features to the house, features that would benefit them later. They talked about ensuring my name was on all the primary loans. Their master plan was laid bare in cold, hard text. Once the final contracts were signed and the first major payment was made, she would file for divorce, citing my emotional distance and workaholic tendencies. They would end up living in my dream house, built with my money, while I would be left paying the mortgage on a home I couldn't even set foot in. One message from Dalton burned itself into my memory. "I almost feel bad for the guy." Almost. Lorelei's reply was the final, fatal blow. "Don't. He's so obsessed with this house, he can't see what's happening right in front of him. Trust me, he deserves this. He deserves this." 6 years together, and that was what she thought of me. That I deserved to be robbed of my dream, my money, and my dignity. A strange calm descended. The emotional storm had passed, leaving behind a chillingly clear purpose. I methodically took screenshots of the entire conversation with my phone, emailing them to a newly created, secure address before closing the laptop and placing it exactly as I had found it. I walked to the bathroom door and knocked gently. "Hey, I'm going for a walk to clear my head," I said, my voice even. "Whatever," she called back over the sound of the running water. "Don't forget we have that signing on Friday, eh?" I walked for hours that night until my feet ached and the cool night air had dried the tears of rage and betrayal on my face. When I returned home, the emotional debris had been cleared away. All that remained was the clean, stark outline of a plan, a blueprint for ruin. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. My voice was steady, my excuse plausible. The moment Lorelei's car pulled out of the driveway for her job at the boutique, my operation began. I made 3 calls, each one a crucial support beam in the structure of my counteroffensive. The first was to Mark, my old college roommate, now a sharp financial advisor. "Asher, long time no hear. How's that dream house coming along?" he asked cheerfully. "That's actually why I'm calling Mark," I said, cutting to the chase. "I need to make some significant changes to my finances, urgently and discreetly." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Everything okay, buddy?" "It will be," I replied. "Can you fit me in today?" 2 hours later, I was sitting in his sleek downtown office. He outlined my options with quiet efficiency. "Since the vast majority of the savings are from your documented income and bonuses, you can legally withdraw your portion from the joint account. It won't be the full amount, but it's substantial. We can set it up in a new account at a different bank entirely." "Do it," I said without hesitation. "And Mark, not a word to anyone." He studied my face, his expression shifting from professional concern to genuine worry. "You got it. But Asher, whatever's happening, take care of yourself. Don't do anything rash." "This is probably the most calculated decision I've ever made," I assured him, and it was the truth. My second call was to Patricia Winters, a name I'd gotten from a colleague who'd gone through a nasty divorce. She was one of the top family law attorneys in the city, with a reputation for being a shark in the courtroom. Her office had panoramic views of the river, a testament to her success. She was a woman in her 50s, with sharp features and an even sharper mind. I laid out the entire situation, including the screenshots of the text messages. "I didn't want revenge," I explained. "I just wanted what was rightfully mine." She tapped a pen against her legal pad, a slow, rhythmic sound. "Smart move, Mr. Parker. Most people wait until they're served papers, by which time assets have often mysteriously vanished. You're being proactive." She leaned forward. "Here's what we'll do. First, secure your finances, which you've already started. Second, continue to document everything. Third, find a place to stay before you make your move. And finally, we file the moment you're ready." My third call was simple. I took a personal day for Friday, the day of the signing, the day my life was scheduled to be stolen from me. For the next 2 days, I lived a lie. I became the greatest actor of my life. I kissed Lorelei goodbye in the mornings. I discussed floor plans and lighting fixtures with her in the evenings. I pretended I didn't see the phantom of Dalton standing behind her, his arm possessively around her shoulder. On Thursday, while Lorelei was at work, I made the transfer. Just over $230,000, my life's work, was moved from our joint account to my new, private one. I left her contributions untouched. I wasn't a thief. I just refused to be a victim. That afternoon, I packed 2 suitcases with my essential belongings, clothes, personal documents, and a few photographs from a time before Lorelei. The rest was just stuff, replaceable things. Unlike trust, I loaded them into the trunk of my car, parked a block away to avoid suspicion. I had already signed the lease on a small, furnished apartment downtown, a safe house, a command center. That night, our last night, was the most surreal of all. Lorelei was particularly affectionate, running her fingers through my hair as we sat on the couch, watching a show neither of us was paying attention to. "Tomorrow's the big day," she whispered, her eyes shining with an excitement I now knew was not for me. "After all this planning, we're finally making our dream come true." I smiled and kissed her forehead, the gesture feeling alien and dishonest. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "Tomorrow changes everything." Later, as she slept beside me for what would be the last time, I studied her face in the dim light filtering through the curtains. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. It was hard to reconcile this image with the calculating betrayer I now knew her to be. I fought the urge to wake her, to scream, to demand to know when she had stopped loving me and started seeing me as just an obstacle, a walking bank account to be drained. Instead, I silently said goodbye. Goodbye to the life we had built. Goodbye to the future we had planned. Goodbye to the woman I thought I had married. By this time tomorrow, it would all be ashes. And I was the one holding the match. Friday morning arrived, cloaked in a deceptive sense of normalcy. Lorelei was buzzing with a nervous energy, a bride on her wedding day. "I laid out your blue suit," she said, straightening my tie with a proprietary air. "The one that makes you look like an architect who can actually afford a house like this," she laughed, a sound that now grated on my nerves. "Dalton says the builder is really excited about our plans. He's even bringing champagne for after the signing." Of course he was. It would be a celebration of their victory, funded by my defeat. "I'll meet you there," I told her, my voice a marvel of control. I have to stop by the office first to pick up those modified bathroom sketches. She beamed at me, a perfect, radiant smile. Perfect. I'll go early and make sure everything's ready. I was sure she would. After she left, her expensive perfume lingering in the air, I took one last, methodical walk through our house. I touched nothing. I took nothing else. My departure needed to be as clean and precise as a line on a blueprint. I drove to my new apartment, a sterile, anonymous space downtown. I dropped off my belongings and then drove to a coffee shop across town, a place I had never been before. I ordered a black Americano and opened my laptop, keeping one eye on the time. The meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. At 2:30 p.m., my phone began to explode. 6 missed calls from Lorelei. 3 from a number I didn't recognize but suspected belonged to Dalton. A barrage of text messages, each one escalating in panic. Where are you? The builder is waiting. Asher, this isn't funny. Call me right now. Everyone is looking at me. Where the hell are you? I let the phone buzz and flash, a symphony of her unraveling. I sipped my coffee, the bitter taste grounding me. At 3 p.m., a full hour after the scheduled meeting, I finally answered one of her calls. Hello, Lorelei. Asher, where the hell are you? Her voice was a shrill combination of fury and fear. We're all sitting here waiting. The builder, the designer, Dalton, came to help with the technical questions. Everyone's been waiting for over an hour. I could hear the frantic edge in her voice, the dawning realization that the meticulous plan was derailing. I'm not coming, Lorelei, I said calmly. What? What do you mean you're not coming? Of course you're coming. This is our dream home, our future. No, I said, my voice as cold and hard as the marble countertops she coveted. It was my dream, my future, my money, and I've decided to invest it elsewhere. There was a moment of stunned silence. I could almost picture the scene, her perfectly made-up face draining of color, her eyes darting around the room at the expectant faces. What are you talking about, Asher? You're scaring me. You should check our joint account, I suggested evenly. I think you'll find there's been a significant withdrawal, my contribution, to be precise. Another silence, longer this time. The silence of a mind frantically putting the pieces together and arriving at a horrifying conclusion. You can't do this, she finally whispered, her voice barely audible. I already have. But the builder, the deposit, everyone is here. That sounds like a problem for you and Dalton to solve, I said. The sharp intake of her breath was all the confirmation I needed. She knew that I knew. Yes, Lorelei. I know about Dalton. I know about your plans for my house. I know about everything. Asher, I can explain, she started, her voice shifting into a desperate, pleading tone. Save it, I cut her off. I'll have divorce papers drawn up next week. Divorce? Asher, you can't be serious. This is insane. Where are you? We need to talk about this face to face. There's nothing left to talk about. You and Dalton planned to steal my dream and my money. You failed. End of story. I prepared to hang up. It wasn't like that, she cried, a new frantic edge to her voice. Dalton, he manipulated me. He said things, made me believe things. I laughed, a short, humorless sound. Like what? That I deserved to be betrayed? That I was too obsessed with the house to notice? I saw the messages, Lorelei, all of them. A choking sound came from the other end of the line. Then outrageously, her tone shifted to indignation. You went through my private messages? How dare you? And that's rich, I said, the last of my patience evaporating. You're planning to rob me blind, and you're outraged about privacy? Goodbye, Lorelei. Asher, wait. I hung up before she could finish the sentence. I blocked her number, then Dalton's. I closed my laptop, finished my coffee, and walked out into the afternoon sun. The demolition was complete. All that was left was the quiet, echoing space where my old life used to be. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. What followed was a hurricane of chaos, a storm I watched from the safe distance of my new Spartan apartment. Lorelei, true to form, did not go quietly. She showed up at my workplace, causing a scene so dramatic that security had to escort her out. She sent mutual friends as emissaries, armed with tearful second-hand apologies and convoluted explanations. The divorce process was brutal. As Patricia had warned, Lorelei contested everything. Her attorney painted me as a cold, calculating workaholic who had neglected his wife's emotional needs, effectively driving her into the arms of another man. My attorney, Patricia, countered with cold, hard evidence. The text messages, the financial records, the clear and undeniable plan to defraud me. The deposition was the hardest day. Sitting across a long conference table from Lorelei, answering invasive questions under oath about the most intimate details of our marriage. She looked terrible. Her face was drawn, her eyes red-rimmed. A part of me, a vestige of the man I used to be, still ached at seeing her in pain. But then I would remember her words, "He deserves this," and the ache would harden into resolve. Predictably, Dalton vanished from her life the moment it became clear the dream house, and its accompanying payday, was no longer on the table. He was a parasite who had moved on to a new host. In the midst of the legal ugliness, I threw myself into my work. It was my only sanctuary. Freed from the emotional strain of my marriage, my creativity flourished. My designs became bolder, more innovative. My boss, Jim, noticed. After I successfully landed a massive new client, he called me into his office. "Parker, I'm giving you the Wilson project," he said, referring to a career-making eco-resort on the coast. Full creative control. He paused, his expression softening. "I went through something similar a long time ago. Let me tell you, your personal life falls apart and your professional life soars. It's a strange irony. Keep your head up, it gets better." His words were a lifeline. I poured every ounce of my focus into the Wilson project, and it became a form of therapy. I was building something beautiful, something real, from the ground up. As the months passed, a new, quieter life began to take shape. I settled into my minimalist apartment, reconnecting with old friends I'd lost touch with during my all-consuming marriage. Slowly, I was clearing the rubble of my past and starting to survey the new ground. One crisp autumn morning, I was in a small coffee shop near my apartment when I ran into someone from my professional life, Quinn Sullivan. She was a brilliant structural engineer we had collaborated with on a community center project the year before. I remembered her quick laugh and even quicker mind. "Asher Parker," she said, smiling as we both reached for the same blueberry muffin. "I almost didn't recognize you without a blueprint in your hand." "Quinn," I replied, genuinely pleased to see her. "How's that community center holding up?" "Rock solid, thanks to your designs," she said. "How's the dream house coming along? Last time we talked, you couldn't stop going on about bay windows and heated floors." And I hesitated, then decided on the simple truth. Plans changed. The house isn't happening. Neither is the marriage. Her smile faltered, replaced by a look of genuine concern. "Oh, Asher, I'm so sorry to hear that." "Don't be," I said, a surprising sense of clarity in my voice. "Sometimes, demolished foundations make way for better buildings." She laughed, a warm, genuine sound. "That is the most architect way of saying I'm better off I have ever heard." We ended up sharing a table, splitting the contested muffin. The conversation flowed easily. She told me she'd recently ended a long-term relationship herself. I found myself telling her the whole story: Lorelei, Dalton, the house, the canceled signing. I expected pity, but what I got was understanding. "What I can't wrap my head around," she said, studying me over her coffee cup, "is how she thought she'd get away with it. People see what they want to see." She saw me as the workaholic architect, too obsessed with floor plans to notice what was happening in my own home. And for a long time, she was right. "You don't seem as bitter as I would be," she observed. "Bitterness requires an emotional investment," I replied, "and I'm all out of that particular currency where Lorelei is concerned." Before we parted ways, we exchanged numbers. For the first time since that fateful night in my living room, I felt a spark of something I thought was long dead. Possibility. It wasn't a grand structure, not yet. It was just a single, tentative line on a blank page, but it was a start. My relationship with Quinn didn't ignite. It was built piece by piece with the caution and precision of two people who understood the devastating cost of a faulty foundation. We started with coffee, which evolved into dinners. We talked about work, about our shared passion for creating things that last. She was brought in as a consulting engineer on my Wilson project, and our professional collaboration deepened our personal connection. She challenged my ideas, strengthened my designs, and saw the world in a way that complemented my own. The divorce was finalized a year after I walked away. It was a clean break. Lorelei kept the house we'd lived in, and I kept my 401 Kelvin and the money I had withdrawn. It was over. With the legal battle behind me, I bought a plot of land nestled in the hills outside the city. It was time to build again, but this time, just for me. I began designing a new house, not the sprawling suburban palace I had planned with Lorelei, but something smaller, more honest. A home with sustainable materials, passive solar design, and a wraparound porch overlooking a small stream. Quinn would look over my plans, her engineer's eye catching potential weaknesses, her creative mind suggesting improvements. It became our project, though it remained decidedly mine. One evening, about 2 years after my world had imploded, I ran into Lorelei at a mutual friend's wedding. She was there with a date, a quiet, academic type, who looked nothing like Dalton or me. The haunted look she'd worn during the divorce was gone. She seemed to have found her footing. We exchanged brief, civil pleasantries. Seeing her, I felt nothing. No anger, no pain. Just the vague, distant sense of looking at a blueprint for a building that was never constructed. She was part of a different life, one I no longer inhabited. Quinn, who saw the encounter from across the room, joined me moments later. "Ex-wife?" she asked quietly. "Yes," I said, turning to face her. And nothing. She's part of a different blueprint, one I'm not building from anymore." "Oh." Quinn linked her arm through mine. "Good answer, architect." The new house was completed on a cool autumn day. Quinn stood beside me as we watched the movers carry in the last of my things. It was everything I had envisioned. Open, yet intimate, modern, yet warm, a true reflection of the man I had become. Our relationship had grown stronger with each passing month. It was built on a shared understanding of past hurts and a mutual respect for the slow, careful process of building trust. 3 years to the day after Lorelei had uttered those 4 fateful words, I stood with Quinn in the backyard of our home, officially our home, since she had moved in completely 6 months earlier. The small maple tree we'd planted had taken root, its branches reaching for the sky. "I've been working on something," I told her, leading her into my office. I handed her a small velvet box. "It's a different kind of blueprint." Her eyes widened as she opened it to reveal a simple, elegant engagement ring with a sapphire the color of her eyes. "Asher, this isn't a proposal, not yet," I clarified quickly, a nervous energy bubbling inside me. "Think of it as a preliminary design review." She let out that fearless, open laugh that I had come to love. "Only you would preface a proposal with preliminary design review." "I just want you to know I've thought this through," I said, my voice growing serious. "What happened with Lorelei? It's not a wound anymore. It's a scar. It's a reminder to build better next time, with the right partner, on solid ground." I looked her in the eyes. "This is the better build, Quinn. The best one. Because this time I'm building with someone who checks the foundation for integrity before adding a single wall." She closed the box but kept it in her hand. "I don't need an answer now," I said. "Take as long as—" "Yes," she interrupted, her voice firm and clear. "My professional assessment is that this design is sound. All specifications meet or exceed code requirements." I laughed, a wave of pure joy washing over me. "Is that engineer? Speak for yes?" Instead of answering, she kissed me. Then she pulled back with a mischievous smile. "One condition, though." "Name it." "I get to design the wedding invitations. Your typography choices are questionable at best." "Deal," I said, taking the ring from the box and sliding it onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Later that night, as we stood on the wraparound porch, looking out at the star-filled sky, I put my arm around her shoulder. She leaned into my touch, a simple gesture of comfort and belonging that I once thought I had lost forever. The devastation I had endured had nearly broken me. But it had also cleared the way for something stronger, truer, and more beautiful than I could have ever designed on my own. I had lost the house of my dreams, but in its place, with Quinn by my side, I had finally found the home my soul needed. Some demolitions, I realized, make way for masterpieces.